Welcome, metalheads. I'm the host of Heavy Metal Philosophy and writer for Metal Digest, John Barbas. Make sure you stick around to the end of the episode for this week's Riff of the Week. 2022 has been one hell of a year for metal. If you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you'll have heard me say it's one of the best years ever for metal. And on this episode, we're going to take a look back at some of the things that happened. There's been so many great album releases, and if you've been watching, you will have seen me cover them all, but I want to talk about some of the historical events. Now, obviously, I can't cover everything that happened, or the episode would be 12 hours long, so I'm just going to go over what I consider the major events, and if you feel like I should cover something else, tell me in the comments. Send me an email. Maybe I'll cover that next episode. 2022 started out triumphantly. After years of living under the tyranny of the worldwide plague, we finally returned. We got all of our big festivals back. We got Whackin' back. We got Bloodstock back. We got Hellfest back. We got Download Fest back. We got Maryland Death Fest coming back 2024, I think. I will be at that one. Good Lord willing. I'm going to do everything I can to be at that one. We're back, baby. We're not completely safe yet, but we're back. Yeah. In February, this is probably the thing that gave this channel the most momentum. I covered the fact that Chris Barnes was salty about some of the new death metal singers. There was like a death metal roundtable podcast put on by Knotfest, and it involved Corpse Grinder and Trevor, rest in peace. It involved the dude from Gatecreeper, some of the new blood in death metal. And Chris Barnes tweeted that the state of modern death metal makes him sick. It makes him physically ill. And of course, a lot of us had a problem with that. Now, I did caveat that episode by saying, look, we all make fun of bands we don't like. When we're hanging out with our buddies, we always talk about bands and go, yeah, they're ass. We make jokes about them. But for one of the OGs of the genre, for one of the standard bearers of the genre to go in public and shit on these bands, that's a little bit different than just hanging out with your buddies and talking shit, making fun jokes. I can only imagine what it feels like to be one of those dudes, and you probably consider Chris one of your heroes. I mean, he is one of the originators of the style, and then to have one of the people you look up to just take a big dump on your chest like that in public in front of everybody. What if you're a kid into these new death metal bands, and then those bands are going to say, yeah, well, I was influenced by early Cannibal Corpse, so you go to check them out, and turns out the dude that was fronting that band hates the bands that you like. If you don't like something, of course, we all make fun, but you don't have to tweet about it. And that's pretty much my rule in life. There's a lot of things that I have opinions on, but I don't have to tweet about it. I can keep that shit to myself. Then comes April, and we got tour announcements from As I Lay Dying. Those of you that know what's going on, the lead singer of As I Lay Dying, Tim Lambesis, hired who he thought was a hitman, wound up actually being a cop. So he tried to hire a hitman to murder his wife at the time. Yeah, I mean, of course he went to prison for that, and he served his time. He got out of prison after serving his time. He paid his debt to society, and he reformed the band. And then there was this tour announcement, and a segment of the community was like, are y'all really going to tour with this guy? Are y'all really going to rejoin the band with this guy? I don't know morally what's the right thing to do because he did pay his debt to society. Me personally, I'm not going to give him his money, but I'm not going to cast judgment on the band members, only slight judgment on the bands that toured with him. I don't think As I Lay Dying will ever reach the heights that they once were, and that's probably right. I don't want the guy to be destitute for the rest of his life. He seems remorseful, although, trying to get your wife murdered is quite a bit different than maybe making a bad joke on Twitter and saying you're sorry. I don't know about that one, y'all. Then in June, a personal highlight of mine, I got a role in a horror movie. I had a small speaking part. It's not really my acting debut, but considering the scope of what I've done, it could be considered my acting debut. I'm really looking forward to that. That movie should be out in 2023. So if you want to see what I did, just stay tuned to the channel, hit subscribe. I'll update y'all when it's available. Here's a screenshot on YouTube. I'm very much looking forward to this. I worked with some hard-hitting people in the horror movie community. Very excited. So, like I said, stick around. I'll let you know when I know more. Now in July, we're in the thick of summer, and as always, there's a lot of things that happened in the summer. One of the big things that happened was Metallica had their song Master of Puppets in the Netflix show Stranger Things. It was a cultural event. It was a meme, and metalheads everywhere rejoiced about our music hitting the mainstream. For a small moment there, all the hipsters that love to hate on Metallica suddenly refound their joy and loved the fact that metal was getting the spotlight. And who better than to carry the flag than the dudes with metal in their band name? And then speaking of OGs, we got the announcement of the Pantera celebration shows. Can't really call it a reunion, can we? But they call it a celebration of the band. I'm going to leave this one up to y'all. If you support it, by all means. If you don't support it, just don't give them your money. I can't give Phil any of my money because as a minority, I'm not down with the whole signaling thing that he did. But I love Zakk Wylde. I don't want anything bad for anybody. Again, if you want to go see it, by all means, I'm not going to go see it. I don't think that Vinny would have been cool with it. I think Dimebag probably would have been cool with it, but not Vinny. I can't really say, time changes everything. And unfortunately, those dudes didn't get the time that they deserve. Rest in peace to Vinny and Dime. Phil, don't really support you. You're not getting my money. But Zakk, I love you. So I just hope that everybody just be cool. Then in August, we got big bummer news. Scott Kelly from Neurosis came out and told the world that he was an abusive person to the people that he loved and abruptly retired from music, leaving the future of Neurosis in question. I got hard feelings about this. I mean, Neurosis is one of those pioneering bands. And if you're an abusive person, maybe you don't deserve to be a rock star. There's all of this pearl clutching and hair on fire about cancel culture, but I just don't think that anybody's entitled to being a rock star. I think if you are just out and out evil, maybe you don't deserve that kind of status. Maybe it's not cancel culture for you to go get a normal job like the rest of us. I don't think you're entitled to be a movie star, a pro athlete, any of these awesome jobs that we all aspire to. You can be an accountant or a construction worker like the rest of us. And unlike most people that wind up in one of these controversies, he voluntarily said, I'm retired, I'm done, and he left the limelight. He didn't piss and moan about cancel culture and how people on Twitter are being mean to him. He just took himself out. I'm not saying that makes up for what he did, but it was a very interesting case study in the way that these sort of things are done in the public eye. I think that the bandmates of him had a good, strong statement, and that's one of the first times I've ever been able to say that. Most of the time when these sort of cancel culture things happen and I read a band statement, I go, this is bullshit. This is a non-apology. You're not doing anything. Well, I felt like they said everything kind of as best as you can. I mean, is there a right way to handle this? I don't know. This seems like the best that I've seen so far. I hate that we're not going to get new Neurosis music, but we probably shouldn't, right? Then comes September and one of the dumbest controversies ever. The dudes in Falling in Reverse had to cancel a couple of shows because their laptop got stolen, and so thus they wouldn't have the tracks that was required for them to play their shows, because they're one of these modern bands that has all of these effects, all of this hip-hop influenced drum machine and synth and stuff that they need to perform the songs correctly. Can't perform the songs correctly without that, so they had to cancel the shows. And a lot of boomer rock stars came out, was just like, just play your instruments, bro. What, do you not really play your instruments on stage? Yeah, they play their instruments. It's not the same. They're not a punk band. They need their effects. Now, maybe in the future, other bands should maybe have a contingency plan. Maybe you can keep your tracks in the cloud so that you can get another laptop to just play them. Maybe you need a certain software and that's unfeasible. I'm not sure. I've personally never played with tracks, but I'm one of those fucking boomers that I just complained about. But I'm not coming after the new generation that does things the way they do them. Now, if I find out that they're not actually playing guitar along with the tracks, if dude's not actually singing along with the tracks, yeah, then I'll get mad. But if they're actually playing their instruments and there's tracks, cool. Give me the full experience at the concert. Does Septic Flesh bring a full orchestra with them when they play live? That seems unfeasible to me. Use tracks. As long as everybody's playing their instruments, I'm cool with that. Does Septic Flesh just not get the heat because their tracks are orchestral, they're actual instruments instead of DJ shit? That seems like a real boomer take to me. Then in October, Ivan from Five Finger Death Punch was on stage and he says to the audience, after the next album, I'm going to retire from metal and spend time with my kids. And I made a short that said, I will never make fun of Five Finger Death Punch again because I really respected that move. If you're trying to be a good father, and so much so that you're willing to give up the rock star life to do it, big respect from me. I will never make fun of Five Finger Death Punch again, of which I've done that a lot. I've done a lot of making fun of Five Finger Death Punch, again, with my friends in private. I don't go out on public and shit on them. I mean, first of all, who am I? I'm not an OG of the genre like Chris Barnes, but also, why would I go out in public and talk shit about people I don't know? I really respected what he said there. I made a video about it. And most people understood what I was saying. I don't have to like every band, and nobody should expect me to like every band. So most people, even the Five Finger Death Punch fans, they understood that I was giving respect, even though I don't like the band's music. But there was a couple of people that were like, you can't make fun of them. They do stuff for their troops. Okay. I give money to charity too. Does that mean nobody can make fun of me and the way that I look like fucking Bill and Ted or my stupid sounding voice? Of course. Just because you give to charity doesn't mean people can't make fun of you. Don't be fucking soft. Also, I was saying that I wasn't going to make fun of them anymore because I respected them. Well, oh well, because Ivan has since said that he's not going to retire. He was just talking shit. So I'm back on the make fun of Five Finger Death Punch train. And as far as events in metal are concerned, just want to say the Rock Hall of Fame finally did the right thing, put Judas Priest in the Hall of Fame. Big ups to Judas Priest. Thought it was super cool that Dolly Parton was on stage. Big ups for that too. Finally, let's hope that some other metal bands get the respect that they deserve. Now, it wasn't all super awesome releases like Meshuggah and Fit for an Autopsy. We also got some big bummer news in 2022. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that. We lost a lot of our paragons in the community. I can't list them all because, again, then the episode would be 10 hours long. So I'm just going to go over some of the people that really affected me. And if some other people aren't on the list that affected you, please put them in the comments. I respect it. I respect them. It's all about metal here. But let's give out that recognition for a few names in the community. We lost John Zazula, Johnny Z, one of the people who got the whole underground tape trading thing going, which led to the rise of the Big Four. Legend, big respect, rest in peace to Johnny Z. We unfortunately lost Taylor Hawkins. Now, he's most famous for being in the Foo Fighters, but he did play some metal too. He did session work for Coheed and Cambria. He was in the Birds of Satan. The man was prolific, and it's a huge loss to the community. Rest in peace, Taylor Hawkins. We also lost David Anderson from Soilwork. I'm a guitar player. He was a huge influence on guitar players throughout metal. Huge band, huge loss. Rest in peace, Mr. Anderson. And then probably none will be felt more, especially from the underground bands, from Trevor Sturnad, the monumental and legendary singer of the Black Dahlia murder, but also gigantic supporter of the new and underground bands. I challenge you to find a person that was more enthusiastic about extreme metal than this man. This is an indescribably huge loss. You know, the metal community, there's not much more that we can lose in that. You know, if the time is going to come probably pretty soon when we lose Ozzy, you know, Metallica, but that's about it. After that, it doesn't get any bigger and worse for us than Trevor. That was awful. There's no replacing him, but thankfully, the band has managed to continue on. They shuffled around their members, so it's still a Black Dahlia murder member that's singing. They didn't bring in an outsider to replace him, and I think that that's the best and most respectful way to do it, the way that Trevor would want, and I hope that their next chapter is triumphant and they honor Trevor, and all of us, we need to do the best that we can do to support the underground scene, because that would also please Trevor and honor him. I'm going to do the best I can to shout out all the newest bands. Rest in peace, Trevor. Thank you so much for everything that you did. Now, obviously, a lot of things happened this year. I can't possibly cover them all without making this episode 2 hours long. So again, if there's anything that you think I should have put in, let me know in the comments. Let's talk about it. I really appreciate y'all. I don't see any reason why 2023 won't be just as big, if not bigger, than 2022. There's so much stuff in the pipeline, so many tours, so many albums being released, so many announcements. I'm going to cover them all as they happen. I can't wait to do it with y'all. And speaking of doing it with y'all, I had a comment on my Album of the Year episode where somebody said that their riff of the year was Armies of the Preposterous. I can't argue with that. Fantastic riff. We'll make that the riff of the week. We'll end the episode with that. If you haven't got your Christmas shopping done, here's a gift guide I made for you. Just click here if you're on YouTube. Links in the description if you're not. Thank you so much. As always, read philosophy, listen to metal. I love you.